This SoonerScoop.com video is streaming in crystal clear 4K resolution on YouTube thanks to Enjoy Vision in Oklahoma City. There can be only one LASIK center for Sooner Scoop, and that's Enjoy Vision. Enjoy Vision. This is where Sooner Scoop LASIKs.
Hello and welcome back, Eddie Radosevich, Bob Przybylo. We got George Stoia here, a hoops report, and I'm sure that you've clicked on this. Welcome back to the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel. You know the news. You know what's out there. Oklahoma with an 82-58 loss on Wednesday night in Columbia. They fall to 16-8, 3-8 in conference play. And, you know, as much as we want to probably talk about the disaster that was Wednesday night's trip to Missouri, this is now 3 consecutive losses by 18 points. Yep. First time since 1963 Oklahoma has done that. Congratulations, everybody. This is back to where they have been. In a spot of uncertainty and a spot of, I think, anger, resentment, everything that goes into a product that doesn't seem to be working right now. This is a roundtable is what this is going to be. And I'm going to air some grievances. I know that George might air some grievances, but just real quick, Missouri, it was a disaster last night, and especially in the first half.
First half again. I mean, you know, that's probably the number one question you have to ask Porter Moser at this point is, why are you so lethargic in the first half? Why you don't play defense? Like everything kind of snowballs based on how poorly they played in the first half. That's now back-to-back games, being down 20 at halftime. Back-to-back games where if you're the common fan, you don't even have to watch a minute of the second half because you already know what has happened. And so, you know, Porter mentioned fighting through hard, and Bryson Goodine gave a great answer last Saturday about everyone's trying to do the right thing. They're just a second off here, second off there. And if you are, then you're not going to end up doing exactly what you need to be doing. But it is a mess right now. You get a brief reprieve with LSU. And I think we all know it's not physically. How much mentally does this team still have left?
And based off the first half effort on Wednesday night, 2 for 12, I believe, in the game on layups. You had a couple of lane violations. At one point, they were 9 for 34 from the field. You're not going to win any games doing that. They finished 18 for 58, 31%, 5 for 22 from behind the arc. The turnovers, yet again, were a big problem in kind of digging that 20-point hole.
Yeah, because when you looked at this matchup with Missouri, you go, the Tigers don't have the size. Hey, for the first time, you shouldn't be out-rebounded by 15 to 20. Oh, but you forgot to take care of the ball. Like they had 12 turnovers in the first half. They had like 6 or so like in the initial 5 minutes. Like, here we go again. Like, what is going on? Why can't, you know, if they fix one thing, there's another leak, and they just can't get it all going within the same game. It's almost like a carbon copy of Tennessee. Tennessee, it was 13 to 12 before the Vols took off. Last night it was 13 to 11, and then Missouri just took off. And it's also the last 4 minutes of the first half. You know, we love Brent Venables with his middle 8 of the last 4 in the first 4.
Yep.
You're starting to see that a lot now with this OU basketball team falling apart in the last 4 minutes to where it's like, man, you know, you were in such a great spot, and now you have a massive hole to climb out of.
Bob, is there any concern with, and I don't want to be dramatic here, but I'm going to be dramatic because this feels like a dramatic show. Any concern with just guys quitting on this team?
You know, this is when you start to wonder, and they've still said all the right things from last Saturday. It still felt like everyone was locked in. It doesn't feel like they're pointing fingers. I wonder if they're as much bewildered as we are about what in the world has happened to them during the last couple of weeks. Obviously, the schedule has been intense. We know that. But if you want inclusion into the tournament, you either win some or you definitely don't lose by 20 plus, 28, 18, 24. You don't do that to show that you're a tournament type of team. And so, you know, again, they get the little rest with LSU coming in. The funny thing, I think, about Saturday, you can't learn anything good, but you can learn something awful. Yeah. If something doesn't go your way.
Some type of dogfight in the second half, things have not gone well, right? And I think that the biggest thing for a lot of people out there right now when you talk about Oklahoma basketball is not the fact that they're losing games. I don't think that we sat here and said, yeah, you need to go win at Auburn or beat Tennessee on your home court. It's getting flat out embarrassed. And that's where, like, the bigger conversation that we had on the Unofficial 40, you can listen to it right here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel, just in terms of How much is this on Porter? How much is this on the inaction of an administration that doesn't seem like they've supported the basketball program to what they should be? There's a lot of little things that it seems like it's added up over time, and it's erupted into what this is now at 3-8, and it's a flat out embarrassing product.
It's the biggest thing I talk about every offseason and going into November, December, when you pick up guys like Duke Miles, Kobe Elvis, and Glenn, like guys like that, and you're having them take this leap up. They've got to be able to do it for the entire season. It can't be, spurts here or there. If they're not who you need them to be, and they haven't been. Duke Miles had 18 points. That's one of those 18 points that no one really even notices or even matters based on how the game went. But Kobe Elvis has been a no-show time and time again. Kobe Elvis was the initial transfer portal addition. I mean, their expectations were high for what he was bringing to the table. And if those guys don't become what Porter needs them to be to wrest it away, I mean, this is who the team is. It's not like they're going to get bigger, stronger, taller, more athletic during the next month of the season. And so it's very much a conundrum of trying to.
Kobe Elvis last night, 15 minutes, 0 for 4 from the floor, 0 for 2 from behind the arc, 1 point.
Brutal.
1 point.
Brutal. But to Bob's point, like that's I think the frustrating part with Oklahoma basketball right now is like, can they do better in the portal? Like I look back and I'm like, okay, they clearly needed a big guy, and they weren't able to really get a difference maker at that position. And, Mo Wagi's a nice young player. Sam Godwin is what he is, right? But if they could have got a Brandon Garrison, who we all thought they were in on, right, who ends up going to Kentucky, maybe this team is different. Maybe they do have a couple more wins under their belt. And that's where, I said this on the unofficial 40, but Pete Thamel said on College Game Day, I think it was last week, that on average, SEC teams have been spending $4 to $5 million on their roster, NIL-wise. OU, I know for a fact, is somewhere in the $2.5 to $3 million range. That puts you probably somewhere in the bottom tier of the conference. And so it's a give and take, right? Like, can Porter Moser do a better job as a coach coaching this team? Sure. Maybe even do a better job with that, $3 million, putting together a roster that can compete in this conference. I also think that this program struggles with resources right now, because if they had another $1 million in their pocket to go spend in the transfer portal every year, maybe you do get a Brandon Garrison and all of a sudden your roster is a lot better. And that's the bigger conversation. Like, I think this particular team, it's frustrating to watch them because we've seen them play at a really high level when they've beaten, Michigan or Louisville or Arizona in non-conference, and it's the same story as all the other years. And at the same time, I think even if you are to move on from Porter Moser at the end of the year, the next head coach is dealing with some of the same stuff that Porter is right now.
Yeah, and that's why, for the first time, they attacked the bigs, high school recruiting.
Right.
Andreas Holst, Kai Rogers. I mean, a lot of people are excited about what Kai will bring to the table right off the bat. And big man recruiting. I mean, you can almost tell like Porter has a tell-all story ready to go about what it's been like to try to attract power forwards and centers in the transfer portal to Norman and how difficult it has really been. And, it's just funny to think about if Jeremiah Fierce hadn't played last Saturday, that would have been what this team would have been this season.
Right.
And I think for some people, that would have been very scary.
Very, very scary. And, as we said, it wasn't without them trying.
Oh,
they
yeah.
certainly tried. The Kevin Overtons, Sean Padula, obviously, in the backcourt, Kadari Richmond. There were names out there, and they certainly had put themselves into a position. They weren't able to land them.
Really nice offers together. They did not get, outbid or, they didn't have enough to bring to the table. I think it came down to what you're sort of seeing with some of the things with football. It's like, do I feel this is the program where I can get it done? And I can tell you, at least one of those in-state kids definitely believed if I'm going to be successful, I'm going to make the tournament. I don't think it's going to be with the Sooners.
Sure. And, I mean, as it turns out, can't really blame them, can you? It's a tough situation, and I think that, as this thing kind of starts heading down the tracks that it is right now, we're looking at another March where Oklahoma's probably maybe going to, barring some type of miracle, I feel like, is going to be on the outside looking in. How much is this just flat out coaching. And I think that you get on Twitter last night and tweet anything about the OU basketball program right now. It's fire Porter, fire Joe Castiglione. I get it. I get the frustration. It's been embarrassing. How much is this on Porter Moser would be my question.
I think you got to try to look at making some sort of move. I think there's a lot of like dejected sighs when they see the starting five hasn't changed, or the way that they're trying to attack hasn't changed. I think
the 6-minute droughts of not scoring, which seems to be a thing within the Porter Moser experience over the last 3.5 years.
Last 3 games have just been awful, just teetering around 30% shooting from the field. No, I can't even sniff 40. You're just trying to get around 30. I almost wonder, and I know it's hard to do, but you go back to that awesome comeback against Texas where they fell just short. What if they try to do more press? What if they try to do more 94 feet type of intensity and action? And yeah, you'll probably do a lot of hockey line changes, try to keep guys as fresh as possible. But that was so successful. I know that's a lot of energy, a lot of effort to be put into that, but it worked so well. And I think it could be a different dynamic that people would be caught off guard.
And this is the tough thing too. I think when you look at the landscape of college basketball and some of the guys that have left the program, Otega Owe, everybody was done with him. He's leading Kentucky in scoring right now. You have Milos Uzon. Even a guy like a Rick Asanza is playing well. He's giving minutes out at Loyola Marymount. There's a lot of guys that have left the program. Even a guy like an Elijah Harkless that ended up going back to UNLV, I believe. He's on a 2-way contract right now with the Salt Lake, with the Utah Jazz. They've had some good players. It's what's happening when you get there. And then, like George said, they did beat Michigan. They did beat Louisville. We talked about all that here. What the hell? Almost caught myself. What happens from non-conference to conference play? It's not a matter of step up in ability. Michigan's a good team. They're top of the Big Ten right now.
I think the only thing that you can say is that, well, you played that team on that day.
Sure.
Then you get a couple gimmies, and then you play another tough team. And so you can kind of space it out. And when SEC, we know you can't space it out. Every single game. They just went through a 5-game stretch where all the opponents were ranked. They went 1-4, play LSU. And then based on this week's rankings, it's 5 straight games against ranked opponents.
Second time in program history that they've played 5 consecutive top 25 teams.
And they're doing it twice.
A little bit of it. It definitely is. It's bad luck that you have found yourself in a conference that literally might be one of the best conferences in the history of college basketball. But it feels like it's, to an extent here over the first 3 years, you've used all your good excuses.
Yes.
And it's kind of gotten to the point, it's like you knew what you were signing up for.
You knew, we went through it with the Big 12, and Porter's very adamant that they still didn't get in last season because people didn't want the Big 12 to get so many teams in. The fact that the narrative has changed a bit to say maybe 14 teams from a 16-team conference should be allowed to be in the tournament. No one's really, going off about that notion that almost the entire conference deserves inclusion into the tournament. And right now they've got 7 quad 1 and 2 wins. They're still probably last 4 in for most people, or last 4 buys. So, if you just can roll off, not even on a hot streak, just go 1-1, go 1-1 the rest of the way, you're going to make it. But the way the last 3 games went, just the lack of fight, the lack of...
It's hard to see the light at the end.
It would be such a different conversation we're having right now, too, if they were able to just beat Texas A&M or Texas. Because that adds one more win, and that means one less that now you have to go get at the end of the season. It's such a tough schedule.
It's a totality of everything.
Yeah, because it's like it sucks these last 3 games they've gotten their ass kicked, but you could maybe live with it a little bit more if they had wins against Texas and Texas A&M.
Yeah, because I know we all just feel like they woke up in the second half against Texas. So you think about, the Aggies game, obviously 51-33 with 17 minutes left. But then I think about a game like Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think, Georgia's ended up...
It's a bad loss as
falling
it turns out.
Flat on its face. And that's going to... right now you're looking at Georgia, Arkansas, and the Sooners are kind of all right there in that last 4 in, first 4 out. And OU's got the lift of winning at Fayetteville. Georgia's got the edge on OU. But right now, the Razorbacks are playing a heck of a lot better than OU. It used to be you wanted Arkansas to win to help your resume. Now it's like Arkansas might be ending up taking your spot.
Yeah. And I think that, depending on how the season ends for them, even a Vanderbilt they might end up being on that bubble with you. You have a win over them. Resume-wise, I don't know. They had a couple more wins at home than you have had, obviously. So it's not a fun conversation right now with OU men's basketball. It's kind of a little bit of a extension of what the embarrassment was on the football field.
It's just everything right now feels so hard to just score a bat. Like the way Jalen Moore is working his butt off to try to drive it to the hole, either get contact or try to finish. He's, it's so goofy, right? Because he's the power forward for OU, but he's a top 10 small forward in the country. He's playing out of position the entire time, and he just keeps rolling with it. He's just the shooting numbers for him have not been pretty during the last few games, but he keeps on trying. Jeremiah Fears, we don't know how much that thigh bruise is really affecting him, but he did not look like himself against the Tigers. Getting to the hole a lot, but a lot of time I wasn't even sure why he couldn't finish. It didn't feel like there were long arms stopping him from trying to put it in, but a very rough shooting night once again for Fears. And right, you just have no one to pick up the slack. If one of your two guys are not bringing it, there's not that third or fourth option that's been on a consistent basis being able to say, okay, I can lift you up until the rest of the guys come along with
Jalen Moore and Jeremiah Fears combined to go 4 for 27, 0 for 7 from 3 on Wednesday night.
Not good.
It's not good. It's not good at all. It's a disaster is what it is, and that's probably putting it pretty lightly. What the hell's going on with Reagan Beers?
I think she's just kind of sick, and I think that shoulder injury is maybe lingering a little bit.
Okay.
I don't think it's super serious. I wouldn't be shocked if she sat out and didn't play again this week on Sunday. We'll see. Maybe she tries to give it a go, but I know she was dealing with a little bit of a I think maybe the flu down in Oxford when the team played Ole Miss, which that's going around. And then Auburn, I think it was a combination of that and just kind of not feeling 100%. So look, I think the women's team they can go on a run here and win some games. Their tough part of the schedule is out of the way. They get Missouri on Sunday, then Vanderbilt, Arkansas, Florida, and then Alabama. Alabama's pretty good. But other than that, I feel like they should win some of those games. And they're sitting right now 16th in the country. I think they're projected right now as the last team to get to host a regional. Yeah. I think if they go on a run here to end the season, they're going to lock up that spot to host a regional. Kind of
solidify yourself within the field.
Yeah. And the thing is with them, I think they're a good team. I just don't think they're a great team because the teams that they've faced that are really, really good, Kentucky, South Carolina, Texas, they haven't been able to beat any of those teams.
Had a good fight against LSU after falling behind.
LSU. They've been close, but just not close enough. And this is a really tough conference, just like the men. But I think the women, they're about where they're supposed to be. That's just the truth. And Peyton Verhulst has been really good at times. She's been really bad at times. They kind of live and die by her three ball. And then Skylar Vann was really good against Auburn the other night, 20 points. I think that's maybe a season high for her this year.
Needless to say, avoided complete disaster.
Oh, yes. That would have been a really bad loss. If they lose that game, I don't think we're talking about them anymore. Maybe hosting a regional. So it would have been that big of a loss. So. And these next few, you can't lose to Missouri at home. Missouri's a bad basketball team. Vanderbilt, not a terrible team, but you got them at home. You should beat them. At Arkansas's bad. At Florida's terrible. And then Alabama at home, they're about Vanderbilt. They're a good team. Got some nice players, but again, a team that you should probably beat.
Headed to Columbia on Sunday, right?
I think they're home.
But they already played Missouri at home.
Oh, you're right. They're on the road. They're on the road.
But regardless, it's a game you should go win. Put yourself, as you said, into contention to pile up some wins here as they close into February and then obviously into the women's SEC tournament.
Which I think they could probably be around the 5 seed in that, 4 seed. I think Kentucky
top 4 get double buys, right?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Texas, South Carolina, LSU, and Kentucky will likely be those top 4.
And that might be your national champion coming out of that group as well. Add UConn in there. I know that Paige Becker's starting to play pretty well for them.
UCLA. Yeah, UCLA is really good.
It's crazy. Well, all OU men have to do is beat LSU on Saturday, and then
Yay.
they get the joy of going to Florida next Tuesday, who's probably playing better than anybody in the country with what they've been able to do over the last week. It really is crazy. And I know Jay Billis talked about it on Feinbaum this past week.
So did Reese Davis. Like,
it's incredible.
Everyone's, and I don't know if it's the
Carl Ravitch pointed out that everybody's 500 in SEC play as well.
SEC affiliation or not, but you're starting to actually hear the talking heads, maybe trying to prepare people for 13, 14 teams making it to the tournament. Like if the men have to accept the rebounding, for the women, do you just have to accept the turnovers are going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, and Jenny, every week she seems so frustrated every single week with the turnovers, but it's just like they need to get. They're averaging like 23 or so per game. If they can get that under 20, I think they're a pretty good, like really good basketball team. But I just don't know if they can get there. The passing is really sloppy, and I think they play some of these higher caliber teams. It's a lot like the men. The athleticism is just overwhelming sometimes for them. So they need better guard play. Raina Scott has been playing a little bit better. Nevaeh Tot still kind of been a turnover machine for him. And then Verhulst, it's just like, who are you going to get on any given night? Like most of the nights, she's fantastic and is their main contributor and feeds the ball and scores at will. But then there's other nights, especially when they play some of these more athletic teams, that she kind of gets the turnover bug. So I think you're right, Bob. It's if they can limit those turnovers, they have a real shot to make a run, but we'll see if they can actually do it.
They got to do it, though, right?
Yeah.
Some of those just live ball turnovers are just like,
it's tough.
What the
It's
hell
tough
did
to
I
watch.
just watch?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. All right, that's it. I think that was a little bit of an airing of grievances, but I guess in closing, it has to get better on the men's side. It's a flat-out embarrassment right now, and I think that there's nobody that knows that more than those guys down there at the Lloyd Noble Center, and we'll see. Maybe they can get hot. Maybe. Pray for it. We'll see. It's going to be tough, though. For Bob Przybylo, George Stoia, I'm Eddie Radosevich. We'll see you back here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel.